Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli wa nusallim ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. My dear respected brothers and elders, sisters in Islam, and honorable listeners. Today the mas'ala which we like to discuss is regarding joining the feet in salah, i.e. whether we should join our feet in salah or not. Whilst reading in congregation in jama'ah, a person is standing in the saf, should he join his feet to the person next to him? This is the mas'ala which we like to mention today. There is a group of people who claim that we should join our feet in salah, and their main two evidences and dalail is from Bukhari Sharif. I have Bukhari in front of me. This is the first volume, page 100. In here, there are two narrations which indicate that a person should join his feet in salah. One is a narration by Nu'man bin Bashir, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, says, رَأَيْتُ الرَّجُلَ مِنَّا يُلْزِقُ كَعْبَهُ بِكَعْبِ صَاحِبِهِ. That I would see a person, i.e. a sahabi, from amongst us, he would join his ankle with the ankle of the person next to him. So this is one narration. And the second narration, وبه قال حدثنا عمرو بن خالد قال حدثنا زهير عن حميد عن أنس رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أقيموا صفوفكم فإني أراءكم من وراء ظهري وكان أحدنا يلزق منكبه بمنكب صاحبه وقدمه بقدمه. This is second narration reported by Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi from Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam would say at the time of salah, straighten yourselves, for indeed I can see you behind me. Min wara'i dhahri. Then he mentions, this is Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu's qawl, he's saying that one of us yulziqu mankibahu, we would join our shoulder with the shoulder of the person next to us, and the feet, and our feet with the feet and the foot of the person next to us. So these are the two main narrations and the two strongest narrations of those people who say that we should join our feet in our salah. One is Nu'man bin Bashir radiyallahu ta'ala an, and the second narration is Anas radiyallahu ta'ala an, both reported by Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi in his Sahih. Now there's a few things which I would like to mention here regarding these two narrations. Number one is these two narrations, the first one Nu'man bin Bashir, and the second, the part where Anas radiyallahu ta'ala an himself says, وَكَانَ أَحْدُنَا يُلْزِقُ مَنْكِبَهُ بِمَنْكِبِ صَاحِبِهِ وَقَدَّمَهُ بِقَدَمِهِ. These two narrations are not marfu'. Marfu' means that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself did not say that join your feet with the feet of the person next to you. Marfu' means that where the sanad does not reach to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the first hadith, this hadith is only the saying and the qawl of Nu'man bin Bashir. In the second narration of Anas radiyallahu ta'ala, the final part of the hadith is also the saying and the qawl of Anas radiyallahu ta'ala. Now these two hadiths, apparently, it seems like that we should join our feet, and the hadith is of Bukhari, and there are two narrations. Now let's see what the muhaddithun and the experts of hadith have to say about this. This I have in front of me, Fathul Bari, written by Hafizul Hadith, Alam ibn Hajar Asqalani, Al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. Under this hadith, what does this hadith mean? Imam Ibn Hajar mentions that this hadith, al-murad bidhalika al-mubalagha fi ta'adil as-saff wa sadd khalalih, wa qad warada al-amru bi sadd khalal as-saff wa at-targhib fihi fi ahadith kathira. Allama Ibn Hajar mentions that this hadith and this chapter which Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi has written in his Bukhari is referring to mubalagha, i.e. exaggeration, in straightening the surface and filling the gaps. So the meaning of these the meaning of this hadith is mubalagha, i.e. exaggeration, is a metaphor, is a majazi meaning. It doesn't literally mean that the Sahaba would join their feet, but it's just a way of saying something, a way of emphasizing on something, a way of exaggerating. And the evidence to this is that the second narration, Nu'man bin Bashir radiyallahu ta'ala, in Bukhari Sharif, Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi has mentioned this hadith ta'liqan. Ta'liqan means he has mentioned this hadith without the sanad, only the qawl of Nu'man bin Bashir. The reason to this is that Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, he has certain conditions, ma'ayir, shara'it, and a criteria of writing his book. If any hadith does not meet the criteria, the shart, then he does not mention the hadith with the sanad. So this hadith which is mentioned, this qawl of Nu'man bin Bashir radiyallahu ta'ala which is mentioned, firstly is mentioned without any sanad. And the full hadith to this of Nu'man bin Bashir with the sanad is in Abu Dawud Sharif. If you open Abu Dawud Sharif under the chapter of straightening the sufuf, like Ibn Hajar also mentions, هذا طرف من حديث أخرجه أبو داود وصححه ابن خزيمة, that this hadith, this qawl of Nu'man bin Bashir mentioned by Imam Bukhari is only a part of the full hadith which Imam Abu Dawud rahimahullah has mentioned in his Sahih. Now let's analyze and look at the narration, the full narration of Abu Dawud Sharif. The full narration of Abu Dawud Sharif, reported by the same Sahabi which Imam Bukhari has indicated towards, does not only talk about joining the feet, but in that narration there is shoulders mentioned, rukbatain, the knees have been mentioned, and the feet and ankles have been mentioned. So we have the shoulders, the knees and the ankles. Now my dear brothers and sisters, a person when he's standing in saf, imagine a person standing in saf. He's got a person on the right hand side and he's got a person on the left hand side. Now practically this is very difficult, balki is close to impossible, that the whole saf, every single individual, his shoulder, his knees, his ankle is meeting with the person on the right and the left. We have tried this many times and it's very difficult. The person standing in the saf, keeping all these body parts from the right side and the left side joined to his neighbors. That's why this hadith doesn't literally mean to join the feet. That's why Imam Ibn Hajar has mentioned this means mubalagha, exaggeration. And there are many examples of this in the Qur'an and hadith where the literal meaning of the Qur'an ayat and the literal meaning of the hadith is not taken. For example, in Surah Bani Israel 15 Sipara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ أَعْمَى, that a person who is blind in this life, وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى, i.e. this dunya, he will be blind in the life hereafter. Now if a person takes this meaning in its literal meaning, then na'udhu billah, that will mean many people who have had iman and done a'mal salihah, have done righteous deeds, they will be in the akhirah, in Jannat, blind, if they were blind in this life. For example, the Sahabi Abdullah bin Maktoum radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who was the mu'adhin of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was blind. But what does the Qur'an ayat mean? وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرِ أَعْمَى, i.e. the person who was blind from hidayah, blind of the heart. So down there the Qur'an ayat is not taken as literal meaning, balki the majazi, the metaphorical meaning is taken into consideration. Similarly, there are many other ayats like this. In the ahadith, we have many hadiths One hadith to do with the straightening the rows. This hadith can be found in Muslim Sharif. And this hadith, I have this small version of Riyadh Salihin Darus Salam print. On page 284, Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi, under the chapter of Babu Fadli Saf al-Awwal wal Amr bi Itmami Sufuf al-Awwal, the chapter regarding the excellence and the virtue of the front saf and the obligation of completing the front safs. Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi has mentioned a narration, which is also mentioned in Muslim Sharif, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the Sahaba say, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, kana yusawwi sufufana, he would straighten our rows, hatta ka'annama yusawwi bihal qidaha, as though through the rows he sallallahu alayhi wasallam would straighten the arrow. Now, my dear listeners, when a person has a straight row, he doesn't straighten arrows with the saf of salah. It's just a metaphor, a mubalagha, that the rows would be so straight that you could, as though you could straighten the arrows with these sufuf. So similarly, like you get majazi and metaphorical meanings in the Qur'an ayats, in the ahadith mubarakah, similarly this hadith, these two narrations regarding joining your feet, Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullah alayhi in Fathul Bari has mentioned that this is based on mubalagha, exaggeration, is only a metaphor and is only for targheeb, to encourage to straighten the rows. And the dalil is that the full narration which is mentioned in Bukhari is mentioned in Abu Dawud. Now we can see for ourselves that if a person wants to act upon hadith, if he's got the zeal and shauq to act upon hadith, why only act upon part of the hadith which is mentioned in Bukhari Sharif without any sanad? Why not act upon the full hadith which is mentioned in Abu Dawud with the sanad? And we will come to the conclusion that to act upon the literal meaning of the hadith is not possible, but rather the meaning is mubalagha and exaggeration. And the same sort of explanation Allama Badruddin Al-Aini Al-Hanafi in his commentary, which is one of the best commentaries also of Bukhari Sharif, has mentioned the same as Ibn Hajar Asqalani in Fathul Bari. The second narration, so that narration was regarding Nu'man bin Bashir. The second narration was, which Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi is mentioned in Bukhari Sharif, is Anas radiyallahu ta'ala. The last part of this hadith, وَكَانَ أَحْدُنَا, and one of us, يُلْزِقُ مَنْكِبَهُ بِمَنْكِبِ صَاحِبِهِ, will join his shoulder with the shoulder of the person next to him and his foot with the person next to him. So obviously down here, it doesn't mention explicitly that this is Anas radiyallahu ta'ala saying this. But Ibn Hajar Asqalani rahimahullah has mentioned that in another narration derived and taken by Imam Ismaili from the narration of Ma'mar, in there is an addition where is explicitly mentioned Qala Anas. The Anas radiyallahu ta'ala said, وَكَانَ أَحَدُنَا, that we should do this practice. So from this we can again understand that the second narration of Bukhari Sharif is not marfu, i.e. it was not directly said by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that joined the feet, but this is a qawl, a saying of a sahabi, Anas radiyallahu ta'ala an. Ibn Hajar further mentions that وَأَفَادَ هَذَا التَّصْرِيحِ أَنَّ الْفِعْلَ الْمَذْكُورِ, that this explicit mention of Anas radiyallahu ta'ala an in the narration of Ma'mar used to happen in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَبِهَذَا يَتِمُّ الْإِحْتِجَاجِ بِهِ عَلَى بَيَانِ الْمُرَادِ بِإِقَامَةِ الصَّفْ وَتَسْوِيَتِهِ. And from this we can understand that the evidence is now clear that the meaning of the ahadith is only to straighten the rows and is exaggeration. The dalil to this is that in another narration, Imam Ma'mar, he's mentioned وَلَوْ فَعَلْتُ ذَلِكَ بِأَحْدِهِمْ الْيَوْمِ لَنَفَرَ كَأَنَّهُ بَغْلٌ مَشْمُوسٌ, that if any one of us, if I practice this today, he was ghaliban, if I'm not wrong, a tabi'i, if any of us practice this today with anyone, i.e. if we join our feet with anyone else's feet, then that person would run like a rebellious mule. So from this we can also understand that the narration of Bukhari Sharif, the two narrations, they are not based on the literal meaning, hakiki meaning, but the majazi and the metaphorical meaning. So the khulasa and the net result is that joining your feet inside salah, in congregation, with the person next to you, this is aqlan naqlan batil. It is void, is not acceptable through intellect and through narrations. Through intellect, because the full narration is in Abu Dawud Sharif, and to join your shoulders, your knees, your ankles, etc. is practically very difficult and close to impossible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't order a person, a human, to do something which is so difficult and literally impossible. Allah says in the Qur'an, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only burdens a soul and nafs according to his capacity. And this is very difficult to maintain this during the salah. But just to start off salah in this position is also difficult. So aqlan, through intellect, and if we use our logic, such a command is not possible. And through naqal, through ahadith and narrations, and through aqwal and sayings of the muhaddithun, is also batil to act upon the literal meaning of this hadith. The net result is that this hadith where the Sahaba have said that we used to join our feet is only mubalagha, is a meaning of majaz, a metaphor, and is targheeb, to encourage, to straighten the rows, and the literal meaning hasn't been taken by anyone. None of the four A'immah, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, Imam Malik rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah, and Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, none of the A'immah and none of the eminent scholars of these A'immah have said that this hadith is referring to the literal meaning. Number one. And number two, which I would like to mention, that nowhere in the hadith does it say that the Prophet ﷺ directly said himself that join the feet. But rather there's narrations also where the Prophet ﷺ said that join your a'naq, your necks in salah. Now, neck is that's even more absurd and preposterous compared to the other narration, to act upon the literal meaning. So all these narrations are referring to the majazi, the metaphorical meaning of the ahadith. And like I mentioned in the beginning, that to act upon the majazi meaning, and to leave the literal meaning, it is commonly used inside the Qur'an and inside the ahadith. Only then will the meaning be correct. Otherwise, there will be a lot of confusion. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the true understanding of iman and deen, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us all from the ways of shaitan. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
محمد رسول الله محمد رسول الله أرجو رضاك يا الله أنت الرحيم يا الله